So, welcome back. So today is the day after I got the baling all wrapped up, and yes, I survived jumping into the dugout where the cows had just been. So this happened last night towards the end. We were belching oil out of that. It's something to do with the rear remote serve. I don't know whether it's like you can add to it, but basically that happened. So it's old brittle. It's coming apart. Big thing is I didn't have an Allen wrench big enough for that. So here's one of Piper Doug's fixes. All you do is you get a bolt, 2 nuts, jam the nuts, which means run one against the other, crank it hard, and yeah, lo and behold, you have a 19mm or 3/4 inch Allen wrench. Cheap man's Allen wrench, or as we like to call, shade tree Allen wrench. So yeah, I'm gonna go and find a O-ring from a box, replace that. And yeah, the rain still has not showed up. That was supposed to come right in the wee hours of last night. That's why I bailed on in the tough last night. And trying to get the sloughs and all the cattails all bailed up. Didn't make it because of this. So I'm going to ram this new O-ring on there, get it fired back in there, and go and finish cleaning up the field. Because I'd far rather get all the sloughs all clean and all that stuff all bailed up out of the way before it grows any further. So, on with it. Last night and got that baling done. Yeah, I know I didn't get the sloughs all finished baling up. Oh, there's some rumbles, but that stuff can wait. Man, the combine guys are going to start to be worrying now. This is going to do a lot of damage. Only saving grace is hardly a breath of wind. Yeah, this is back in the shop. So yeah, we're going to try and make this tractor 4-wheel drive again. Be kind of handy loading some of these big heavy damp bales, because these bales have to come in and start getting used right away. Plus, after, as you saw previously in this video, we got a lot of rain, so now there's a lot of mud, as you can see by the tires. So yeah, getting in around the pens, because some of the pens, like the cull cows with calves, we still have to bed them. Because there's nowhere we can put them onto grass safely without there being a mix-up. So the problem we had was the 4-wheel drive. Which is pretty well a 540 spline at either end. I checked. Shoal Lake Farm Equipment, great people up there. Like I said, I'm hoping to do as much business with Shoal Lake as from now on as we used to do with the big dealership, or stealership as they like to be called. This shaft they cannot get. Now that's not to say I could get one made up. Probably would only cost me a few $100, because I think the part from AGCO was going to be about $700 because it is high strength steel. But for all that I need it for, I figured out what the heck, I'll weld it. So yeah, I didn't show you, I think I showed you in previous videos. If you want to go back, it's there, but this will kind of give you an idea. So this is the new one, 540 spline. This is the old one. It's like 270 spline. So before, after, before, after. So that was this end. This end was what was on the tractor. And as you can see, not a lot of waggle damage at the tractor end, which I'm thankful for, and I think I did cover that in a previous video. So yeah, I've built up the little step that was on every tooth. It's close enough, like I spot welded down either side, and then this thing starts to fit, but I'm just gonna hammer it on. And then it'll be good to go. So, what was I looking for? So there is, what the part I was waiting for was the bearing carrier that clamps to this. And what had come in already, which was what had gone wrong previous to this, is this. So this bolts like that up underneath, and then the bearing carriers bolt into here. And I bet you they didn't get bolts with that. Okay, well, I'll go through my bolts bin. So yeah, that's basically what went wrong, was these bolts loosened off, and then the bearing carrier started banging around, and then every time that you would be either on the road or doing something real hard, this thing would get jumping, and the bearing carriers would spin, and they just ended up eating the old bracket of this and destroying themselves. So I've got the parts now, minus the bolts, as we found out. So I'm gonna hammer this on. That was just the earth clamp. I'm gonna hammer this on, and the other bracket is already under there for that end. I will remember to put the bearing carriers on before I go any further, and we'll get this back to 4-wheel drive. Yes, I know. She likes to mark her territory. I think that's water. Or that might be oil. I know there was water coming out, but that might be oil. Gosh, this thing leaks so bad. Got a leak up front from the front of the tranny. I've got a leak there from someone wrecked the threads on the diverter block there. That, I think that's on the screen. That's on the, that right there in the middle of the screen. That's a screening filter thing. So I have a new one of those here somewhere. So that'll be getting done also. But I'm just going to get this schmack together because it's already dark o'clock. And yeah, we'll bring you back. So, next on the list is the riding lawnmower. Yeah, I know that guard is no longer on here. It is sitting over there because it's been reshaped. Still can't really figure out how I did it, but it was making contact with that, and it runs fine without it. So it doesn't have it anymore. Today on How Broke is Broke. As you can see, there's a big space there. Well, that big space should have one of these in there. And the other side, just as fugly. Except that side there is the simple part. This side around here, a little bit more complicated, because that shepherd's crook you can see there, that's the parking brake. That is what you engage to start the engine. Is sort of the safety switch. There is actually a switch on it somewhere. Not important at this point. So I figured I wasn't going to start dicking around. I called the guy at the service department at Mazers, and I said I need the things that go in there, because he's like, yeah, you can rebuild them. I checked that first. So it's a bearing, and I don't know if there's anything special about it. It's quite weighty, so I'm thinking it's fairly heavy duty. Even though it's not doing a lot of turning, because basically it's just like that. But then again, with the power of the swather and leverage and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they were $17 a piece. I can't complain with that. Came in a rather big box for a tiny little bearing. Anyway. Not a problem. So I said, order me up the parts. Got a couple of boxes of blades. I think a box of blades is 60 something bucks a piece, which is very affordable considering how much work they do. And it's actually cheaper to replace blades on this than it was to replace blades and guards on the Haybine that I used to have. That's a fact. Anyway, back to this. So I went to pick up the parts, and I had to pick up a new water pump for this guy. That's a future job, because this guy has developed a tiny little leak on the shaft of the water pump. And as we all know, that means it's on its way out. And as far as I can tell, it's the original 1991 water pump. And I think this tractor's got, it's probably up in that 7,500 to 8,000 hours on it. So it doesn't owe me anything. Good to go. It was like 650 bucks plus shipping, and it was going to be 450 bucks from eBay, and it was going to take a month to get here. So screw it, for 200 bucks, I don't care. So picked that up. That was a pile of money. And the next thing, the bill for those blades, and then a dozen of the bolts to hold the blades in, because I have the donuts. I think I covered this before. Anyway, got some more bolts. They were, I don't know, like $4 a piece. And then the bill added up to quite a lot of money. And I couldn't figure this out. And then I realized there's a spacer. And I'm assuming it's something to do with this. And the spacers are like this. So it just looks like a piece of pipe. There's no holes. There's no spirals. Like, they're not exceptionally heavy. I'm pretty sure they're some sort of a hardened steel. $65 a piece. Because it has that on it. $65 a piece for two little bits of pipe. Now, I'm not into it yet, so I'm not sure whether there's like special magic powers that those spacers have. That maybe they give more horsepower. That's probably what it is. It's more horsepower. Probably at least 37 more horsepower with those, I'd think. So, yeah, there's that. So I'm going to get tore into this, and then I'll bring you back once I've got it apart, because I think I might have to take the arms off. I'm not sure. I'm going to take the bolts off, and then I'll bring you back. So the arm is here. So there you go. There's the bearings. I was thinking there was a lip on the inside, that way the bearings couldn't go anywhere else, because they had a circlip on the outside. But it doesn't look like there's anything on the inside. So yeah, I've got to press them out and put the new bearings in. But to get this out, Oh yeah, well, I'll do this first. To get that out, it would be so much easier if you could take away this bracket here. Like you can see, I took one bolt out. It would be really handy to pull the arm off that shaft that's, and you can see, I can point there. That up in there, and that way you can pull up over the top of this. But no. Well, why not, Piper Doug? There's a puddle of oil. Why would that be? Oh yeah, because 2 of the 3 bolts, not all 3, just 2 of them, are right up into the pump case. So as soon as you undo the bolt, all the oil starts pouring out of the pump. But not that one, only these ones. So you can't take that bracket out of the way. So, how do you get 2 wrenches up into that tiny little space up by the pump? Well, I'm so glad you asked me, because I have learned, and you will learn from my mistakes, my busted knuckles, lump in the head from banging my head on the tag roller frame. You come in from this side, and you reach down over the top of the pump. See, you're flying in. There's the shaft. So yeah, you get 1 wrench flat up against the bell housing to the engine, and then you can get the other wrench on this side, and you can work it back and forward 1/4 of a turn at a time to get that bolt out. With 14 mil, not 9/16, but 14 mil. So yeah, there's that. Yeah. So keep in mind that bolt right there. So what did I end up doing? I couldn't take that bracket away, but I could take away the parking brake lever thingamajigger, technical term, out of there to drop it out of the way, which let me get my hands up in there to pull that down out of the way to get that shaft off. Now, back to the spacers, the expensive spacers. Spacer. So, there is spacers. I ordered the rebuild kit for 1 arm, so yeah, I got 2 bearings. If I wanted both spacers, I should have got 4 bearings, because the front set needs a spacer. But the bearings on that one are fine, and I never ordered the stuff for that. So, one of these spacers can go back for $65. Or I'll just stick it in the toolbox for this machine for that front one. Or if I happen to be back in Mazers, I'll take it back, whatever. So yeah, that's the spacer. So, the little bearing, trying to take this off single-handedly, dropping my tools everywhere. There's a little doodad. So, yeah, there's like 2 spacers in each one. Not like you think. This. And that looks kind of wore. But I didn't get that. I got this. Maybe that one is like all in one. Maybe. But yeah, so that's the wear. There's a bit of a groove there. And then the outside is all kind of mongled. But that's because the bearing's been out for a while. So, that's where we've got to. And yes, I'm not filming while I do this work, because I would be kicked off of YouTube for some of the language I've just been using. Yes, there's some calves over there that are quite disturbed by what they just heard. So, I am going to clean up these parts and start replacing things. And then I'll maybe bring you back along the way so you can enjoy me losing my God-fearing mind. So yeah, funny. Weirdly, blind people would make great mechanics, because most of the time you can't actually see what it is that you're working on. Down in there, but I'm basically going by feel, and just because I'm back here. But one arm's in here, the other arm up and over here, and quarter turn. And yeah, just going by the old fingertips. Yay! I tell ya, I'm sure glad I got the front wheel assist working on this tractor. That's a cattails bale from this damp baled hay. There's 20 bales on there that are probably all about 2,000 pound bales. She's a pool. She's a pool. Yeah, I'm going to try and get a few loads off this field. Get another rainstorm coming in tonight, so but I really want to try and get these bales hauled in, because as you can tell, there's a cracking third cut already up there. So it's probably why it was so hard to get that stuff to dry down, because there was so much fresh growth coming up underneath, keeping it damp. So keep it trucking. So trying to figure out why our pastures are not coming back, even though the cows haven't been in here for weeks, if not close to a month. This will show you. Yep. Right now they're not so bad, because it's actually quite windy. Yeah. This is not so bad. They're just clear cutting the ground. Probably should have given a warning before I did this, for those like my daughter that hate bugs. Okay. I don't like this approach, but I have to use it. Okay. Well, I figured the best place for these bales to get used right away will be in here, near to where the first feeding will be here. And I'm going to leave this space here because this is where we'll put our straw. We'll probably be putting 3 double rows up here, along here. So yeah, just come in here and unload them. That's all we have to do. Damn bugs everywhere. Till that happened, fixing, farming and fixing. Bugger it. Damn it all. Piper Doug's a dum-dum. So if you ever find yourself working on an AGCO product, Massey Ferguson, and you're dealing with a broken ball joint, looks like it was broke halfway through already. That's a little bit hot. So you have the old trick where you have to get a wheel off to get a jack centered underneath that, because that wheel was too close to being under it to get a jack. And you put a jack up. Just so happened I had a nice piece of spline shaft from the disc bang. So I used that to put pressure on the underside of this. Take the nut right off. You're not hammering on it. You never hammer on these. Never, ever hammer on these. Even if you're not using them again. And I probably won't be using that again. But depends on whether I can get a hold of one right away. So yeah, put pressure on it up under there. Sometimes you can get lucky if it hasn't been there for decades. You just hammer around the outside even without heating that up, and it should pop right up out. Should. Now this has been in there for almost 30 years. And with what this does for a living, it was in there. Right in there. In there. So I did run a little bit of heat around the outside. And then what you do is keep hammering round and round and round and round. And if needs be, go the heat again. Didn't even get it red hot. Just hot enough to be steamy. And then I started hammering a few more times. And then I hammered down the way. And boo! She came out of there like a rocket. She made that noise too. Boo! Oh, that might have been me because it scared the living poop right out of me. The reason I'm bringing you here and the reason the Piper Dog's a bit of a dummy is that I've been fighting with this. Trying to get this to turn. To unscrew it off of this guy. Because it swivels in there. It's a ball joint in there. Threaded rod. And then this threads onto there. Now dummy Piper Doug, didn't realize through the rust, this was not part of this. That's a lock nut. Yeah, probably a lot of you already noticed that. Piper Doug didn't. He hasn't done very many of these. So I've been trying to undo off of this, that, which is ramming it onto this pipe. And I was damn near stretching out my Ukrainian wrenches there. Until one of the last times there, I noticed that there was separation. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it came off the other way easily. Yeah. So now I just got to unscrew this off of that rod there. Keeping an eye on kind of roughly where it's at. So yeah, if you're having an absolute mental breakdown doing this stuff, yeah, that's a lock nut. It's not part of that. See, look at it. That's the whole ball joint. Look at the size of that thing. That's what she said.